Higurashi Sotsu ended its 15-episode season with probably one of the more controversial endings for the series as of this point, and I could see why. Before I get into the actual video, there will be spoilers for Higurashi Sotsu and Higurashi Go, and honestly all of Higurashi that I have seen at this point, so if you have not seen the original Higurashi Go or Sotsu, please get off this video if you don't want to be spoiled about anything. So yeah, if you don't mind spoilers, or if you've seen it, stick around. This won't be an entirely long video, but there will be spoilers. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers, and I am really hoping we reach that subscriber mark very soon, before the end of the year. So if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. Now then, onto the video. Higurashi Sotsu was probably one of my most anticipated anime of the summer block. There were so many good anime during summer, but there honestly was not a ton of good anime during a lot of anime in general for the summer this year. But the upside, I managed to keep up with a good number of shows for that season. One of which was Sotsu, because I watched all of Higurashi Go from the fall through the winter. And while we did get a one-season break in the spring, I was super hyped for Sotsu, because this was the overall answer arc that the end of Go essentially talked about. And if you haven't already, my Go review is up above, as I did state that watching Go really made me appreciate Higurashi a hell of a lot more, and it helped boost Higurashi as a whole to be one of my all-time favorite anime of all time. So if you want to hear my thoughts on Go in general, go give that a watch, and also I'll link in the title card above, along with the Go review, my review / opinion of the original Higurashi, which is essentially me talking about why I liked the original Higurashi and why it's a good horror series, literally a few days after I finished binging the whole thing. So go give those a shot. So Higurashi Sotsu, probably one of the most anticipated shows of my summer season. We have had a ton of good shows, particularly some continuations, one of which was Slime Season 2 Part 2, which I thought was really good. But I'm not going to get into a bunch of other shows, because we also had like Ida-ten, we had, I believe, Dragon Maid S, which was another show that I really enjoyed during the summer. But Sotsu, I think, was the one I was excited for the most. Every time a new episode dropped, when I was available, I would watch it. And I was blown away, and I enjoyed everything up to a certain point. Note, I said a certain point. And I think a lot of Higurashi fans are honestly kind of disappointed or angry with Sotsu in particular, saying that it ruined Higurashi, or this isn't Higurashi anymore, or just general dislike for the series. And those are all warranted opinions and stuff, because you all are entitled to your opinions. But think about this. Did you still enjoy it up to the parts that you felt controversial? Because the controversial stuff was primarily the final arc, the final 5 or so episodes of Sotsu. Everything leading up to that, I've been hearing a lot of positive things about it, so I have to say, that finale, yeah, the negativity was more or less warranted, but not to such a vast extent, and I'll get into that later on. Now, Sotsu was the answer arcs to Go's question arcs. The final arc of Go was essentially an answer arc, showing us why the events of Go and Sotsu occurred in the first place. But Sotsu took the role of Higurashi in a sense, while not essentially like giving us new arcs that would give us answers to the questions from the previous season. It literally was a retelling of the first 3 arcs of Go with a different perspective. 2 different perspectives, mind you. Well, in addition to Rika's. We have Rena and Satoko's perspectives in the first arc, the Demon Deceiving chapter. We then get Mion and Satoko's perspectives in the essentially the cotton drifting variant, the cotton deceiving arc, and then we get the curse deceiving arc, which is primarily Satoko's perspective, and Teppei's perspective as well. So what Sotsu does in general, it does go with adding more perspectives, because from what I hear, the visual novels do have a bunch of different perspectives on the story as you play through them. So I think that was a good call. We got to see how Satsuko essentially instigated all of these different routes, and how these all essentially make a lot of sense. We got to see Rena being, the lovable psychopath that we all know and love, and her essentially being forced to go into L5, level 5 of a Higurashi syndrome, and start to go on a killing spree. And the thing that I liked about Sotsu is that it gave another irredeemable character of Rin essentially a redeeming quality, essentially someone that is against what she's doing now and wants to fix things, but Rena's so far gone that no matter what, she's going to end up killing her regardless, leading into one of the best horror scenes and moments in this whole series from Go and Sotsu. Both series do really good with the horror, but I think Sotsu, primarily with Rena's arc and Rena's perspective, really helps with it. And I like Satoko's passing remarks and scenes in Sotsu, as it shows how she essentially instigates a few things, but also how she views everything going on and confirms when she's going to go to the next loop. Mion's one was shocking, honestly. It also played up the horror aspect of it, which I also found really good, but also had some dark humor with the whole Mion shoving a dead Rika down a toilet. Yeah, that was, well, it was horrifying at first. For some reason, you end up thinking of laughing because it just seems like a comedy routine at the end. But overall, the tone is still pretty dark, as you'd expect for a Higurashi series, and I liked how Mion was explained before this arc essentially started, that she never succumbed to the level 5 virus in any of the loops, as she is very level-headed, very trusting, and thinks things through a lot. So she's always trusting her friends and allies, and even when things go bad, she does tend to think things through and be rational through everything, so paranoia, doubt, and suspicion doesn't get the best of her. And we get to see how her being forcefully injected with the L5 serum affects her. She essentially is like a midway point. She is super paranoid and has murderous intent, but is also somehow like zoning out when she's doing these things. And it's very horrific, as she then, when she snaps back, she instantly regrets her decision, especially in the first killing she did in this arc, was of her sister Shion, which was very graphic, and I don't want to show this in the video because it is way too graphic and dark, and I am afraid that this video could have something to it. But I think the best arc in Sotsu was the retelling of the third arc, which was the Curse Deceiving Chapter, which essentially showed all of Sadako's perspective on manipulating Teppei into moving back to Himizawa, her manipulating all of her friends into believing that she's being abused to try and create a nice world, and then take everything away from Rika to break her will even more. And honestly, this had a really shocking twist at the end of the arc, with essentially Sadako's consciousness being split into the one which is the true Sadako that instantly regrets everything that she's done after all the countless looping, and just wants everything to go back to normal and just to stop all the killing, and all of her rage and all her negative emotions taking shape, being called a witch, basically taking over and continuing all of the loops, getting more and more brutal as we go on. That arc, that ending makes a whole lot of sense, and it plays a lot into how Rika figures out, or at least suspects Satoko of something happening with Satoko in the end, of being a looper, but her not wanting to believe it. The first 3 arcs, I believe, are honestly really good. Some questionable moments here and there, but overall very good. And we could all say that it's all just retreading old territory, but that's kind of what an answer arc going back into this was, and that's kind of what we should all have been expecting in the first place, since we were revisiting previous arcs. But we did get a lot of new content and new perspectives on everything that was going on, so I think we should all forgive that, in all honesty. Plus, the first 3 arcs had a lot of good moments, showing these characters in their darkest moments, and also showing how a redeemed Teppei does not deserve what happened to him at the end there, despite all the crap he did in the original Higurashi. Because that man was a scumbag, and that's someone I honestly did not. You know what? I'm not gonna get into that right now. But then we get into the final arc, which is the last 5 episodes. Well, 4 to 5 episodes, I forget the exact number. The God Entertaining arc, which, for the first 3, are literally recaps of previous stuff. We get more moments with Satoko in the different perspectives, and her in those failing 5 loops. We also get extra moments with Hanyu in the end, and a little bit extra depth to Hanyu, with her regretting to ever give Rika the power to loop in the first place, as she was basically responsible for causing Rika to relive hell on Earth for over 100 years, and which ended up leading into Satoko. And I like the reveal of Satoko, with Hanyu essentially being shocked that Satoko is responsible for everything, since she is Rika's best friend, and she never imagined Satoko would ever be capable of doing anything like this, just without any context of everything that has happened to Satoko in Go and in Sotsu overall. But it's honestly a bit of a rushed ending, as we did essentially get about like 2 to 3 episodes of recap with just extra perspectives put into it, which I think episode 13 was pretty much all recap with just a few moments with Hanyu and Ewa in it. Episode 14 I liked a lot, because despite episode 13 ending more or less with original content, with how Rika essentially caught Satoko in the end and is super shocked with it, 14 was literally the most brutal, was literally an incredibly brutal episode overall, because it was basically just one giant like brutal fight all the way through to the end. We got Satoko and Rika essentially going into brutal fist fights, frying pans to the face, not being comedic like at all, like literally dark. Rika getting pummeled in the face and killed over and over again by Satoko. And three of them going loop to loop at very different points, even to like when they're in high school or while they're in middle school, until Rika finally starts fighting back. But again, Rika still ends up dying first because of the whole like thing with Satoko needing to be the one to die second. Otherwise, she'll either not exist anymore or be in a world where she'll never be with Rika again, as like a caveat. And they essentially get her say a bunch of things that both are justified in. Satoko didn't want to be alone, but she believes that Rika abandoned her. Rika brings up some other valid points that Satoko should have just sought out her help and stuff like that. And essentially the whole thing is just them bringing out their frustration against each other and just wanting each other to live in each other's ideal world, their own happy ending. And it then ends in a big DBZ-like fight, which essentially is reminiscent of stuff that happens in Umineko for pretty much the majority of that series, which I have not read, or I never read the visual novel or the manga, but I've heard a lot of things about Umineko, so I kind of get where that was going, which kind of played into some theories of this essentially being like a type of backdoor Umineko origin for like two characters apparently. And I didn't mind it. I was like, okay, that was a thing. I sat on it for a bit. I liked it, and it makes sense with how where Ryukishi's other works get into, with more like bombastic fights along with like some horror elements from Umineko, I believe, at the beginning. So I was okay with the magical girl DBZ fight scene because it still shows them literally fighting each other to vent out their frustrations with an item that could literally permanently kill them. And it ending on like a cliffhanger of, is Rika going to actually kill Satoko, or is she just going to forgive her? In episode 15, probably the most controversial thing is the fact that despite them still fighting it out and just them lying in a river beaten to a crap, exhausted, seeming their friendship seemingly over, they basically got essentially reconcile a bit. We got a nice happy ending montage of everybody, and things are tied up with a neat little bow, with Rika going off to St. Lucia, Sadako staying in Hinamizawa, seemingly letting the dark part of her, the witch, disappear to chase after Rika, presumably maybe in like the fragment world or something. I don't know, maybe that'll lead into an Umineko thing or something. I got no real idea. And this is where the main thing of Higurashi Sotsu's negativity comes from: the rushed ending and the retreaded content way too often. The first three arcs were more or less forgiven as they all had new perspectives, so of course it was going to be retreading old stuff, but seeing these new perspectives make things worth it. Seeing the misunderstandings, seeing how other people think, seeing how the culprits ended up thinking throughout each and every arc. And honestly, the one with Satoko and her uncle, the whole curse deceiving arc, was honestly my personal favorite, next to Renan's, because that was just horror all the way through and used some really nice visual techniques. But Sotsu's ending was rushed. We literally have Hanyu taking down Awa not giving any explanation as to how exactly she appeared in this world, and then just decided to give Satoko the looping powers, because I think we all thought that was going to happen in the end. And the rushed happy ending with everybody seemingly being all together in Hinamizawa, with Rika going out to St. Lucia. And yeah, I am sore about that ending. It just felt too rushed for like the reconciliation and them going their separate ways, which is the obvious solution from the beginning, being addressed and made into actual practice, just being super rushed without too much being explored. If we didn't have a bunch of recap for the final arc, or full retreading of everything else with just a few bonus scenes, then I think we could have had like an extra conversation between Satoko and Rika. Maybe a few more episodes of just all the club members getting a bit more like time to shine and development, so that their speech and lecture to Rika and Satoko in the end holds a lot more weight. Their whole speech about friendship and what friends mean. Even though you're apart, you'll still be friends and stuff like that. It would have held a lot more weight. And Rika's conversation, essentially like not fully forgiving Satoko at all for all the horrific things that she's done, but it still wants to be friends with her, and they still have to go their separate ways. If they just had that one conversation for like a nice 4 to 5 minutes of just addressing all that, I would have been fully fine with the ending being rushed. But yeah, this seems to be the complete end of Higurashi, though I believe the Higurashi Go manga is going in a completely different direction with the final arc, with the answer arcs and stuff like that in the ending. So I'm honestly excited, because I might end up bringing that at some point, because if there's an alternate ending to this series and it's more fleshed out and makes more sense in the end, then I'm all for it. But for now, Sotsu's ending is the canon ending of Higurashi, with the alternate ending with the manga. And apparently there's some sort of Higurashi continuation with Keiichi's kid being made soon, so that's kind of cool. Maybe I'll check it out at some point. not entirely sure. I'm currently trying to collect the original Higurashi mangas, but a lot of them are out of print, so that would probably take a while. But anyway, overall thoughts on Higurashi Sotsu. The answer arcs were good. It gave a lot of nice answers, some really cool perspectives, some nice horror movie feel, some nice horror and psychological feels, some nice directorial techniques, and showing just how brutal the series can be, and the mental states of all these characters during these arcs, and them at their worst. We also got a pretty decent conclusion with Rika and Satoko. I liked the whole episode-long fights of them just getting into a fist fight, beating the crap out of each other, trying to kill each other over their own ideals, to literally just keep the other in their own ideal world. I was fine with the magical girl fight. But the rushed ending, the constant, literally redone content, especially in the final arc, kind of killed the vibe for me in the end. The whole brutal time looping fights with them just constantly fighting and trying to kill each other in some incredibly brutal ways almost completely made up for it, but the rushed ending just didn't sit well with me. If we just had that one conversation with Rika and Satoko and maybe some extra moments with the rest of the club members, then this series would be essentially all well and good. Overall, I'd have to give Higurashi Sotsu a 7 out of 10 at the very least, due to the fact with all the retread content and certain aspects not feeling right and the rushness of it all. But in terms of sheer enjoyment, I'd give it an 8 out of 10 or a 7.5, just to be nice. But overall, about a 7.5 out of 10, just to be safe. There's a lot of stuff I didn't like, but I enjoyed the series overall. I really wanted this to be the best season of Higurashi with essentially the continuations. That wasn't it, but it had a lot of moments I really loved and enjoyed. Does this affect my overall thoughts on Higurashi as my all-time favorite anime series of all time? No, it does not. I still love Higurashi, and despite the rushed ending and the missed moments that I wish were in there, Higurashi is still one of my all-time favorite series of all time, and this anime still helped me appreciate it even more. If you like Higurashi, just appreciate what you got. For all we know, the manga for Go will have a much better ending, so that will probably fix a lot of things. And who knows, maybe we'll get an Umineko series, and if it's all from the beginning, following the actual story of Umineko, then I am all for it, and I can't wait to get into Umineko if it does get a full-on anime adaptation. But yeah, Sotsu, I enjoyed it all the way throughout. It had a lot of problems, 7.5 out of 10, but it did not affect my overall enjoyment of the series, and Higurashi is still one of my all-time favorite anime in essentially all the anime I've watched. But what did you guys think of Sotsu? I know a lot of you are probably going to disagree with a lot of my claims, either saying Sotsu was a masterpiece or saying that Sotsu was absolute crap, or some combination of the two. Leave all your thoughts and opinions down below, and don't forget to leave a like and hit the notification bell after subscribing to this channel to help get us to 1,000 subscribers. Who knows, maybe I might make more Higurashi content in the future revolving the manga if I actually do get the whole thing, just review the manga and its differences to the anime and stuff like that, because I do hear the manga has more stuff that the anime cut out originally. But yeah, with all that said and done, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you all have an awesome day.